Batman Beyond's Sinister Six video is a long time coming. If you look at some of the older Sinister Six videos I've done, there are quite a lot of people who have suggested I do Batman Beyond, and I am finally getting around to it. We have had our fair share of Batman Beyond comics. Not too many, but there is some things to pull from, but most of the information you can get from the character is going to be from his cartoon or other animated appearances. Two things here. Number one, there are actually two gangs I'm going to refrain from using any of their characters. The Royal Flush Gang and the Joker's Gang. There are a lot of notable characters I could have used for the Sinister Sixes, but I left them to their own teams, and I'm going to pull from other villains that he has. And number two, usually in Sinister Six videos, I only do 3 teams. That is mainly because there are a lot of characters who you start to run low on villains to use. For Batman Beyond, I did make 4. So with that said, let's get into the first team and some of the details behind it. Team number 1, we're going with Blight, Ink, Freon, Big Time, Dr. Abel, Cuvier, or Cuvier, however you pronounce it, and Man-Bat. All of these characters on this team, except for Dr. Abel, have all been mutated in some way to give them the abilities that they have now. The thing that is making Dr. Abel suitable for this team is the fact that he does in fact deal with these mutations, and I'll get into it. Blight, who I would argue probably has a solid case of being Batman Beyond's arch nemesis. He, at one point, is the CEO of Wayne Power Industries. They were combined. Derek Powers being his real name, he is the one who killed Terry McGinnis's father. You can keep that as a canon fact if you like, but he is a corrupt businessman. He does get his mutation from the fact that he was exposed to a chemical weapon and he tried treating himself with radiation. What I would do in this situation is, being a corrupt businessman, he was actually trying to create a division within Wayne Powers Enterprises, and he's trying to actually sign on Dr. Abel to create these very strange, very powerful mutated beings that could somehow be sold to the highest bidder, which would bring in income and hefty profit from maybe black market dealings. For example, he could look into the past and see the fact that Gotham housed a person or a thing like Killer Croc, and he thinks to himself, if we can replicate that again and keep it under control, we can sell this thing to the highest bidder, they can do what they want with it, and we get a huge ton of money. Long story short, the board overrules him, he takes matters into his own hands, and literally mutates himself. Whether he meant to mutate himself or it was an accident, it doesn't really matter, but it still happens. What he does is he looks around for other people who probably already exist at the time and have already fought Batman Beyond, and looks for people who have a form of a mutation, bands them together, and essentially he's trying to take Wayne Powers Enterprises back by going after all of the board members who overruled them and removing them from the picture, or killing them. And to prove that his mutations department does actually work, he gets Dr. Abel in the meantime to create a newer, scarier version of Man-Bat, an even more unhinged version of what Kirk Langstrom was. And there's a couple of reasons in why Terry would have to involve himself. Well, obviously he's Batman and this is in Gotham. This is also Bruce Wayne's company. Terry's got to keep an eye on that. This is also a man in Blight or Derek Powers who he could learn that he had his father killed. There's a huge vendetta there. And also Big Time, a guy who at one point was best friends with Terry. This team would not be easy to go up against. I think Man-Bat is self-explanatory and an unhinged version of it too. We know what he's capable of. Dr. Abel, if he's capable of continuing to do his work, you're gonna have a city overrun of mutated Gothamites. Blight has has an overextending amount of radiation and supercharged abilities. Big Time is, of course, the muscle. He's the heavy hitter, but there's also a different connection there too, knowing that that used to be one of his best friends. Freon, who can fly and has ice capabilities, also got her power through radiation, so this could also go to show Derek Powers' unethical experiments also turned her into something that is very dangerous for the rest of Gotham and for Terry McGinnis. And then there's Ink, who, in all honesty, I think is probably one of the coolest Batman Beyond villains. She is probably most closely related to Clayface for regular Batman, but even then, I think she has some crazy abilities, and she is far more dangerous, not just in her powers, but in her mindset as well. You could even do something where Charlie, Big Time, was actually mutated by Derek Powers and is now being forced to work for Blight, which is exactly where the idea comes in on if there is a character out there, who is the character that would turn on the Sinister Six. And if it's going to be anyone here, it is going to be Big Time. He would probably recognize his relationship with Terry. He would realize that what he's doing working for Derek Powers is not the right thing to do, and what Derek Powers wants to do to people for money is also very wrong. It would also help if Big Time knew the identity of Terry, which would maybe make their coming together a little more realistic. Regardless, after this is all said and done, Blight could be the reason for so many mutated villains in Gotham that Batman Beyond will have to fight in the future. For Team 2, it's Adeline Stern, Shriek, Spellbinder, Mad Stan, Armory, and Payback. This is kind of a half Mental Games team and half Hitman team who all have some sort of vendetta against Batman Beyond, or even the original Batman. Adeline saw her father when she was a young girl get beaten to a pulp by the original Batman, and she carried that resentment with her for the rest of her life. I believe she even donned a role as the new Neo Scarecrow of the future. You could do something like that, or you could give her a little bit of a different identity, still making her scary, still making her threatening. What she does is she bands together a group of people who, for whatever reason, want Batman Beyond dead. Whether it is for a client and joining this team is the best possible way of doing it, or whether it's personal. And more so than just killing Batman Beyond, her main goal is to actually get Gotham City to view Batman just as evil as she views him. After what she had to see as a child, Batman will always be a villain in her eyes, and she wants the rest of the city, if not the rest of the world, to feel the same way. Payback, Armory, and Mad Stan all have the ability to fight Batman Beyond one-on-one, and even potentially overpower him being 3-on-1. When you combine Shriek's supersonics and Spellbinder's hypnosis with the fact that Adeline might be taking a newer, upgraded role of Scarecrow, yeah, this team is not easy. I think the best thing you could actually do in this situation for who would turn on who if this Sinister Six was going to have that situation, it would be the irony of having the entire team actually turn on Adeline Stern. Her unfiltered and uncontrollable addiction to proving to Gotham Batman Beyond is a blight of their existence, who isn't even the original Batman she indeed hates, would start to get to the team and kind of thinking, why are we even doing this? Maybe she is crazy and Batman Beyond for once is in the right in this situation. Let's turn on her. All right, guys, just before we get into the rest of the video, I want to quickly look at our sponsor for the day, which is Manta Sleep. When going to bed, I've never been one to actually wear sleeping masks, and this was an absolute game changer for me. It is by far one of the best sleeping masks you can find on the market today, and it adds a ton of features depending on the one that you particularly buy. The most important feature, however, at least for myself, is the complete blackout sleep that it offers you. If you you have any windows in your room that allows for a lot of sunlight, these masks will completely block it out and allow you to sleep uninterrupted. My particular sleeping mask is one that has Bluetooth speakers, but I mean, if you really want to, you can just take it off and now it's a regular sleeping mask. And if that's not something that interests you, don't even worry about it. Just take a look at their vast catalog on their website and you'll see all the different variations of sleeping masks you can buy for yourself, or maybe even someone who needs it. So in the description below, head to the link that will bring you to the Manta Sleep website, and in the discount code of any purchase, input T.M.M for a 10% off and 100% guarantee yourself a darkened sleep. Now for Team 3, it's Talia al Ghul, Curer, Stalker, Ubu, Cobra, and Sword of Gotham. So for this story, I need to change some things around and make some of these characters a little more different than usual. If you guys can recall from the Batman Beyond animated show, there is an episode where Talia al Ghul comes back to the picture, tries to entertain the idea of Bruce Wayne using the Lazarus Pit, in which he does do, and later on they find out that Talia al Ghul is actually dead. What it actually is it's the mind of Ra's al Ghul within the body of Talia al Ghul. Well, I would somewhat keep that idea, except it is a battle for the mind. Talia and her father have been battling on who is going to dominate the body, who's going to take over one or the other. So sometimes it is the mind of Ra's and sometimes it is the mind of Talia. And usually it is Ra's who comes into control. Cobra, whoever is the leader of the Cobra cult, it really does not matter. This is a character who has actually joined forces with the League of Assassins. Both Cobra and Talia, Ra's al Ghul, have joined both their factions to work for one goal. The Cobra cult in the past has been promised a victorious and glorious future, and this is the only way they can get it done, by utilizing someone like the League of Assassins. Also, the League is suffering from losing a lot of their own people. Considering what has happened is when Ra's went into Talia's body, he has become far more radical than he usually is. And you know the radicalism is bad when even you, someone that your people are used to being radical, are driving people away from your cult. So in the interest of both leaders, they join their groups together. Curer, who actually has a connection to a Green Lantern family-wise, she joins the League of Assassins and becomes a right-hand woman to Talia. There's Stalker, who is pretty much the Craven to the Batman Beyond, who can't concede a challenge in any way, so Batman Beyond is right up his alley, and you could even do something where maybe he is a member of the League of Assassins. Here are where some of the changes come in. There's the Sword of Gotham, who's part of this team, who is a sentient program who's capable of possessing other bodies. In this storyline, that's not exactly what the character would be. However, he would still kind of look like this model. The Sword of Gotham would actually be the Sword of Assassins, I guess you could say, and he would be such a formidable opponent in this team. When Bruce Wayne analyzes this character as he fights Batman Beyond, he's so impressed by his skill. Bruce Wayne actually creates the computer system Living Gotham, updates the model of the Sword of Assassins as the Sword of Gotham, and uses it as a protector if anything were to go wrong with him or Terry McGinnis. And then the biggest one is Ubu. Ubu is actually a group of people who is supposed to take on the line of the Ubu and serves in the League of Assassins alongside Ra's al Ghul, and not many people know who is behind the mask of Ubu. And what you would find out throughout this storyline is, of course, they would get demasked and you would see this person as Damian Wayne. I have this idea that after so many years in the Bat family and Bruce has decided to retire, Damian still has to find himself and doesn't know what he wants to do. And it came to a point in time where even Bruce lost contact with his son, and never knows what happened to him. Dedicating himself to the League of Assassins was always much more of a pull and a draw to him than being part of the Bat family and taking care of Gotham, at least in this story. With Ra's dominating the mind of Talia, he wants a new host that he will fully be able to control all to himself. The mind will all be his, and now he will have a new body. He wanted it to be Bruce Wayne, but he will not budge. He has no interest, so instead, he sets his sights on Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond. Essentially, at the end of it, the one who would probably turn their back on the team would be Ubu, Damian Wayne, who realizes the League of Assassins and everyone else part of this massive cult now, it's not the way to go. We've lost our focus. We've lost our sight. Ra's/Talia, they keep battling each other. They don't truly know what they want for our future. I have to join Terry McGinnis and even possibly find my way back to Gotham one day. And in the end moments of this story, you could even have Talia regain control of her mind, even for a small amount of time, in which she chooses to sacrifice herself so that Ra's could finally die. And then last but not least, for Team 4, we're going to do Hush, Mr. Freeze, Bane, Riddler, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy. What I wanted to do here is to almost have a nostalgic callback to Batman. Even though Terry is a different Batman, he is still Batman and will have to face remnants of what has come before. This is a fact that no matter what Batman is out there, they'll never be able to run from some of these characters, because as long as there's Batman, they're always going to be here kind of idea. So the Hush in this situation is the Dick Grayson clone. The Mr. Freeze is in fact Mr. Freeze, but it is literally just his head on ice. The Bane is Jackson Chappelle, who actually was the caretaker to the original Bane as he was dying and decided to sell his venom, called Slappers, as drugs, and even use them to utilize the powers of Bane. Riddler, who finds a way to put his brain into an AI system that allows him to stick around Gotham so he can continuously plant and craft tiresome and irritating riddles all over the place, because if he couldn't beat one Batman, he has to find a way to beat the next one. The new Catwoman, which is actually the daughter of a villain to Firestorm named Multiplex. She is a new character who comes around almost impersonating the old Catwoman with burglary and thievery, somewhat dressing up as her in a more high-tech suit, but has high-tech abilities capable of duplicating herself and actually having lives. And what I meant by that is her duplication actually replicates 9 of her, in which all of her has Olympic-level acrobatics. For Poison Ivy in this story, it is a version of the character who has actually become one with Mother Nature. She no longer has a human body. When she outgrew it, when her body started to become old and decrepit, she is now one, if you will. She can create herself a new body if she wanted. She can form leaves and plants and grass, whatever she wants, to make herself a body, to make it a little more human for other people around her. But she is extremely powerful, possibly more so than she was in the past. So the story here is this is a clone of Dick Grayson who, after so many years, no one knew that this clone survived. But of course, the clone is going to feel neglected. He's going to feel like no one cared for him because he wasn't the real Dick Grayson. He was ignored and never remembered. He wants a form of revenge. He wants people to know that I was Dick Grayson too, and none of you ever paid me any mind. You just forgot about me. He goes around digging up all of these old villains to the original Batman so they can all come together and go up against the new Batman. Throughout this story, seeing somewhat familiar faces, maybe newer versions of them, Mr. Freeze getting a even more upgraded body and freeze gun just attaching his head to it. Batman Beyond can learn a lot about what these villains are, what Batman had to deal with. And of course, that would be the Dick Grayson clone Hush's main priority, is to kind of out Batman, out the Bat family. Terry McGinnis would actually pity this Dick Grayson clone, but that does not stop him from understanding he needs to stop them. So there's two people who turn on this team. Either Poison Ivy, she might think to herself, this is beneath me. I am so much more than when I was Pamela Isley. I am one with the earth. I don't need to be here, and she removes herself from the equation. But more so turning on the team, helping Batman Beyond fight this team, would actually be the new Catwoman. She has a very similar situation, that of Selina Kyle, who ends up developing a soft spot for Batman, and that is exactly what would happen here for Batman Beyond. But there it is, guys, 4 Sinister Six teams for the character of Batman Beyond. This video was fun to make because I got to go down a rabbit hole of characters that really have only been shown a lot in animation, and just a ton of characters that a lot of people don't know about, and even myself forgot about because I haven't watched the show in such a long time. So as per usual, let me know what you guys think of the teams in the comments. Also, feel free to mention other DC characters I can attempt to make Sinister Six teams for, but that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. So until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.